Thank you. All right, good evening and welcome. This is the Wenham Select Board meeting of May 12th, 2026. It is 6:30 p.m. and we will get started. Okay, so I will have a call to order. If you could just say that you are present. Myself, Deirdre Parati.
Ben Timon, present.
Finn Sprague, present.
Peter Clay, present.
Thank you. Everyone is here this evening. We will first have public input. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to comment to the Select Board on items that are not on the agenda this evening. I see no hands in the room. Anything on Zoom?
No, there's not.
Okay. We will move on to Town Administrator's update. Steve?
I have a few updates, but I'm going to cut them short. I know we've got a lot to do before 7, so really just two. One, I just want to remind folks that our annual Memorial Day celebration will take place on May 25th at 10:15, the Cheeseman Memorial, move to the Veterans Memorial at 11, and finally 11:30 at the Main Street Cemetery. Additional details will be shared via the website and social media. I also wanted to remind the Select Board and residents who are interested in serving their community and also existing board members that the Select Board adopted a new policy last year for the appointment of boards and committee members, and that the incumbent, so the person currently in the seat whose term is up this year, has to formally express interest, and the seat, is not going to be directly reappointed as in past years, to allow, all folks who wish to, serve on a particular seat to have the chance to, at least voice their willingness to participate, and let the Select Board review all candidates interested in that particular seat. And that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, I have a brief chair's report this evening, and the first thing is something that I neglected to say at the last meeting, so I apologize for that. But very importantly, I want to thank Ben Timon for serving as our chair over the past year. Ben did a tremendous job, really set a high bar, and was instrumental in steering us through the whole 3A situation, and we couldn't have done it as well without his expertise. So thank you, Ben. Very appreciative.
Thank you, Deirdre. I'm blushing, and I have nothing to say
Excellent.
for my report.
Okay, I have two more things, though, before we go on. I would like to say thank you to Lori Heil, as Lori is a Wenham resident. She identified a need at West Wenham Park to have bathroom facilities. She approached the Select Board, and we agreed with her, of course. She actually launched a GoFundMe fundraiser and was able to fund the installation of porta potties for this season while we work on how to figure out how to fund them in the long term. But we're very appreciative to Lori for taking that initiative and to getting it done in such quick fashion. And lastly, I want to acknowledge the passing of Bob Hicks, who is a longtime Wenham resident and unfortunately passed away just in the last few weeks. Bob was really a wonderful contributor to the town. He most recently did a lovely study on the historical artifacts of Town Hall, presented to us, I believe it was last year, and that is available for people to enjoy. Bob also served on the advisory committee to the Beverly Airport from 1983 to 1994, and was also a part of the 375th committee from 2017 to 2019. And we send our deepest condolences to Bob's family. He will be missed. He also raised with me a lot of issues about Burleigh Street that we're going to try to fix in his honor as well. All right, anything to add, Ben?
Not for me, no.
Finn?
Just so Gary and I had an opportunity to participate in the Little League Parade this past weekend, which was great fun, and it's kind of amazing to think, I think they said that they've got the most kids involved ever in their history, something like 350 Little Leaguers and 100 softball kids involved, and that's a huge percentage of the kids in
Wow.
the town, so I thought that was pretty great. I I was listening to the radio on the drive home a little while ago, and I heard about a $400,000 grant to Hamilton Wenham Water District for to kind of address PFAS, and I think we're going to see that on the agenda. So I thought that was really great, and I'm glad to see the grant, and I'm wondering whether or not that was one of those grants that we might have lost if we hadn't complied with 3A. So I'm really glad to see that. And then finally, a couple of the select board members, I got to go over to Cherry Street this past weekend and take a look at that. So got to walk that in person and was glad to do so. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Finn. Peter?
All right, I have two things. So last Friday, I participated in a Hannah Bowen, Sally Cairns, and Joanne Lovely put together a Beverly-focused review of the Transportation Department. And we started naturally at a brewery, of course, and then we walked from there over to where they're doing the Bridge Street reconstruction, and temporary state of transportation administrator Phil Ang was there. I don't know if you guys know about Phil Ang, but he actually did fix the MBTA in a lot of ways, and so he got promoted to higher levels. It's the point about that Bridge Street failure was it went from it's fine, and 48 hours later it's not fine, and it's going to take 2 years to fix that. And Phil's comment was that we need to be better in terms of proper maintenance, or at least when you know a bridge is going to be out of date, to start working on replacing it. And what they've actually done is pretty cool, is half of the temporary bridge is also going to be the permanent bridge, but it's going to take another 2 years to finish it. The other thing we did is we went over and went to the airport, and Gabriel Hannafin, who's the head of the airport, took us through a great presentation on what's going on at the airport. And a couple funny things about the airport. So they're very sensitive about complaints, and the vast majority of the complaints are from Danvers and Beverly. And there were 5 complaints from Wenham. And so I said, so what is the problem? Are they complaining about the jets? And 95% of the complaints are about prop planes. And Sally Cairns, our state rep, said it's like this, it's like just an annoying fly going around, and whereas the jets are boom, done. But I just thought that was interesting. And the thing about the expansion of the airport, it's actually getting back to code, FAA code. So that's, because I think you've probably been down that road.
It's not quite getting back to code, but they're trying to get there.
Yeah, and evidently they're displacing some wetlands, and they're trying to create new wetlands.
We'll see that when they come in front of us for a permit, yes.
That's the plan. But anyway, that was really interesting. And Phil Lang, just a fascinating guy. And then the last thing I would say is, if you're not following the Generals baseball team or the female lacrosse team, girls lacrosse team, you're making a big mistake. The Generals baseball team's undefeated, and girls lacrosse has only lost 1 game. And they have this amazing girl who was literally on the front page of the Sunday Globe sports page like a month ago.
Wow.
And I've never, ever seen a Hamilton Wenham athlete ever even pictured anywhere in the Globe sports page. So, and she's a senior. She's going to Penn. She's all academic. That was the other thing at the Little League parade. That is my favorite day of the year, by the way. But they have the the senior on the baseball team lined up, and also the softball seniors. The baseball guys are on third home, and the softball girls are home to first. They went down and they talked about each one of those seniors. They're all going to great schools. They're all like honor roll people, and same with the softball players. It's just really kind of very impressive when you see the athletes, scholar athletes that the high school's generating. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, just so everyone is aware, so we do have a joint meeting with the Water Commission at 7 p.m., so we're going to get as far through the other items as we can, but we may need to pause to have that joint meeting and then continue where we leave off. So we're going to take the consent agenda separately, actually, as Finn was not present for the meeting minutes. So unless there is any discussion on the meeting minutes, could we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the 7 sets of meeting minutes that are listed in the agenda.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Finn abstains. Sorry, I'm looking at Finn. Finn is abstaining. Okay. And if there's no discussion, can we have a motion for the election officer appointment of Renee LaForce McDonald? And Barrett, correct, if I said that correctly.
For a term effective May 12th, 2026 through August 31st, 2026. Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
All right. Passes unanimously. Okay. So we will move now to the discussion on 24 Cherry Street with abutting residents. So I believe, is there a person who wishes to speak, or multiple people, or a presentation? Guess I'm not clear on.
Yeah, so I can just give you a quick update. Well, we met on Thursday, but I believe this was a request from the residents to address the select board more in depth, I believe was the term. So I'd asked the chair, and the chair offered this time.
Would that be me?
Yeah, I think it was Dennis who wrote the email.
Yeah, so Dennis Hurley, 26 Cherry Street. I'm really not sure. Like, we're all here because we're concerned about the vacant property, 24 Cherry Street, that's been in existing as a single-family home since the 1870s. We had met, I think, at the last select board meeting. There was some overly enthusiastic passion from many of us because we felt like we got last-minute updates about the property. You had suggested that we put together a working group, which we did. We then met on after that meeting, and then we met on Friday and Saturday at one of the neighbors' house. And I think we have a better understanding of where we were 2 weeks, but not I think we're probably like 76, 82%, but not 100%. So I'm hoping that there's still time to have discussion, but I feel like that might not be the case. And if that is true, then I'd like that to be open for discussion. We then submitted a RFP, or a proposal for that property, which we were hoping that we could work together with before we got to the DCAM meeting to make sure verbs and adjectives and language were helpful. And we did submit that to you guys, I think. I sent it to Kate. I sent it to you, Steve. I think I sent it to you, Ben. Both Phineas and Ben came out to the property. And I think now, I hope, I don't want to speak for either of you, but I think you have a better understanding of the legal, ethical, moral dilemma. Not sure if those are the right words, but you get where I'm coming from. So I think we're all a little bit deeply concerned about where it's headed. One of my questions is, has the select board already kind of given decision-making power over to DCAM, and now are we only operating in an advisory way? So now we're just at the mercy of our suggestions. So I guess I don't fully understand what like the RFP goes there, There's also things that are in the paper right now regarding Wellesley, and I hope that doesn't affect us, but when you read that article, I'm not sure if any of you read that today regarding state surplus land. I hope that doesn't apply to a small little parcel like this comparatively, but I'm not a lawyer, I'm not that smart, but I think it does, and I hope that we recognize that this is a very different and unique situation. Did you have time to look over the RFP?
So-
No, I just got it this morning and distributed. I don't think anybody's had time to fully digest it.
So then,
So,
if we worked like as fast as I think we possibly could to respond to the board, and there's a DCAM meeting tomorrow night, like, and
Can I, so.
Sure.
So, I've read it, and I got a sort of an advanced draft of it as a member of our informal working group, so I appreciate having had the opportunity to get it. So I think, I think there's probably enough of us on the board who have already looked at it, but I thought that part of the program tonight would be that you or someone from the neighborhood group would present that to us. Is that not your plan, or?
sure, do you have it? Do you want to pull it up? I think I sent it to you. I don't have my laptop.
Yeah. Just so that everyone understands the priorities that you've listed. And then I have a small slide deck that I put together that reports to the board and the community on just the facts as I understand them to date with respect to one of the issues, which is the boundary discrepancy. But I think to have a overview by you or of this document, which we do all have, is probably the right place to start.
Sure, I can do that. But keep in mind, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, I only know what I'm talking about based upon, like,
Maybe David should present, because I saw some action in the back
yeah.
nominating him to present it if that's the right representative to present it.
okay. But prior to Dave, thank you, Dave, and prior to him doing that, I kind of want everyone to understand that the timetable of this presentation is like 6 days, and I felt pressure to meet your goal of next Tuesday, which I still don't understand if that's like, you wanted to have this wrapped up by Tuesday before Memorial Day, but I don't understand the why. And I feel like there might need to be more cooperation or collegiality in this, because it's a preliminary moving towards a final, but I'm not sure it's final. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think part of it is that we haven't had the meeting with DCAM, which is tomorrow. I think we had all hoped to have that ahead of this meeting so that we could all be better informed and from their understanding of the process. But I'm really looking forward to that meeting tomorrow with the working group, where we're going to probably be able to kind of address some of these.
Before we get there, and before Dave presents, what is the DCAM meeting? Is this to give DCAM this and say, here you go, and DCAM and go do anything you with it, or is there more to it?
No, it's at least the intention that I've understood of the meeting is to understand how prescriptive we can get in our requests for restrictions. So, to kind of pose some what ifs, let him speak on behalf of the state and how these disposal processes work. So we have kind of an understanding of what we need to submit to them and in what form to help us get the project that we want.
Okay. So then tomorrow night's meeting is a initial step in the next step in the relationship with the town and DCAM. It's not a final.
No, it's a working group, right? So nothing
Right.
is
Okay.
going to be.
Well, I just want to remind you that the board on 2 weeks ago said that they would form a working group to look into this, and they would like the working group's summary back before them prior to Memorial Day. So that is the target. If the board wishes to change that, they can. But that is where this timeline is coming from.
So then that's the clarification why I seem confused, is I want to make sure that there's still a window of opportunity to massage, nurture, change if necessary. And this isn't like, here you go, decamp tomorrow, this is our,
Right, and understand that this is your feedback to the select board.
okay, all right,
And the select board decides what goes to decamp.
okay.
So like this draft isn't what goes to decamp. It's advice to the select board of what the residents would like to see happen so that the select board can, if they wish, incorporate that feedback into their submission to decamp.
Okay, I think that's helpful for all of us to hear, and thank you, I appreciate that, Steve.
So thank you for working on a short timeline. We appreciate that. I found the memo to be very helpful, and we're going to let you go through it in a moment. I mean, the objective, however, is to get to a decision, right? Because that's what the state is looking for. So that is that there is time pressure. At some point, we do need to move to a decision. That's what's
Right, and I'm cautious
pressing this.
due to the, recent nature of things that Tuesday, next, might be a little too quick, so.
But I think there'll be more information after the working group meets with DCAM tomorrow as far as timeline and, as Steve said, what they're looking for.
Thank you.
Okay?
Do you want to give it a go? You want me to? Okay.
Scott Pyle, 25 Monument Street.
Thank you.
So anyways, I have a couple of things. One of the things is that, I've lived on Monument Street for 18 years. Some of us have actually lived there longer. And in that about 20 years, there's been a change on the neighborhood. There's been millions of dollars worth of investment. Millions. My house was the original Arthur Trout house. He ran the general store on Main Street at the turn of the century. I poured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So have my neighbors. So we have a lot to lose. If this is built, there's potential hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss in value, in property value. So we came up with this plan. I agreed to it with the density with the 3 units. Turns out my neighbor, who hasn't been available, is a principal architect at the Smith Group. And I met with him this morning. And we went over the site and the plans, and he made it clear to me that site is only suitable for one house due to the septic system issues. 10 bedrooms, multi-unit, Mass Title V, tank size, leaching areas, reserve areas, setbacks, environmental reviews. Has anybody gone to the Board of Health to see what can be done, to see if this is feasible and begin with?
Yes,
And what was the result?
that the expectation is you could probably likely fit 12 to 14 bedroom septic system on that site.
And when I looked up everything, because I think it needs to go through this before this is presented, is that there can even be needed a reserve area. That's 100% of the leaching area to protect if there's a failure. How, and they went and they did the perk test and everything?
No, we didn't perk the site. I mean, it's not ours to perk. We couldn't, us entering the site would be trespassing, but our septic inspector inspected the soil map and the
Okay,
likelihood of what the perkability would be of the soil and how,
And it would, yeah, okay.
so that's, he did some due diligence, right? Doesn't replace, you have to remember that the buyer, the burden is on the buyer, right, to get it once they
It is.
purchase it.
It's on the buyer.
Right, so
to
that
go
could
to the
limit,
board-
in
To go to
theory.
the Board of Health.
That
I
could
called the
limit.
Board of Health this morning, I spoke with them, they're very easy to get in touch with. And they told me that we can present this, but they have to go through and pass Mass as well as the Wenham Board of Health. And based on what I learned over the last day, this isn't going to meet. And I don't know why we didn't present that with this to see if we can somehow put a stop to it before it even happens. I mean, it's going to devastate the neighborhood. I mean, and what happens to us that invested all this money? It just goes out the window? I mean, listen, I'm emotional about this thing because I have a lot to lose. I'm the one that put in the money. So did my neighbors. And then what ends up happening? And then we find out that this we never knew this happened, that the town had a chance to buy the property and maybe handle it themselves. I think it's very disappointing what's going on here.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, any activity that happens on the site would have to still follow all bylaws, the regulations, setbacks, septic, everything. So it can't just be done without following the same rules and laws that everyone else has to on a site, okay? So we are, I guess we have 5 minutes. How long, I don't want to rush you, but we do have the Water Commission is present, so I don't want to keep them too long.
David Hunt, 21 Cherry Street, across the street. I can run through this and will. I just think one thing that's important for us, we don't want to be a little small town guy tomorrow night with DCAM asking them what we can put in the RFP. I think we need to have the select board, the town, and the neighbors all aligned. And tomorrow night we have that discussion. We say, hey, here's the list of stuff. And whether it's this list or whether you guys want to change it a little bit, but I think that's what we go in with tomorrow night to say, hey, we actually, instead of fighting with you, we're going to align with all of your requirements, and which, are applicable on parcels that are way larger than this, not in very residential wooded areas, and with the underlying zoning that is way more significant than ours. So I think that that's what tomorrow night we should go do. And I think there might be some work on the select board to kind of get prepared for that meeting tomorrow, but let's go. Let's say this is, we're ready. We're going to align with your 4 units per acre minimum, but we just would like to have these 6 things in there. So we worked together, as a group over the last, kind of a lot of hours, probably 20 hours over the last 10 days to kind of put this together, hear everyone's opinion, kind of come together. And this is what it is. It's not perfect. We built it for you guys so that you could use this and try to, go to DCAM with some firepower on what the town and the neighbors want. So just the density, 3 units, that meets the AHA guidelines, right? I think more than 3 units. I think, Peter, you said that, 5 there, that's a lot. It could be 5.
I'm all over 3.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I'd be disagreeing with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, 3x the underlying zoning that's been in town for years, 20 years, maybe 30, right? That's why most of us moved here, to have some space, to have the trees, the wildlife, raise our families in an unbelievable place. And we're still giving up 3x the underlying zoning. Typology for sale, I think that's important on kind of all fronts. You have people that want to live here, plant roots here, potentially for affordable housing, provide long-standing affordable housing for someone to own and build their lives around. On the historic side, Lauren's done an unbelievable job with the Historic Commission. I think we encourage preservation. There's a lot going on there that doesn't necessarily meet the eye with the current condition, but it is a pretty remarkable building. I think it will add a little bit of cost, but maybe we can work to encourage the preservation, and I think it helps with kind of laying out the buildings on site as well. Development location. We met a lot internally about this. If you just want to scroll down a little bit. So there's a purple area, which we believe gives the right amount of acreage to put, or square feet to put in a couple of units and the necessary septic system. So I think that this tries to maintain the tree canopy in the rear. And then obviously, I think, Deirdre, you said all the current setback limitations are still going to be, maintained. We don't have to say that. There is an existing encroachment. I think Ben might talk about that later today, from 26 Cherry Street onto 24 Cherry Street. I think at the end of the day, that existing encroachment is within any required setback for any new development. So I think just making sure that gets respected into the future by the new developer. He's not going to use it for anything, or her. And then kind of moving down as we go. I think landscaping, screening is important. there will be a site plan review process associated with this development, and I think that having the neighbors in the town look at the landscape plan is an important piece of this. Last but not least, our affordable and senior housing. We are pro affordable housing. I think that we need to be realistic about how many units are there, but the market's going to dictate that, and also senior housing is wonderful. So if the combination of affordable and senior is a desirable outcome for everybody, we are for that. I think what we've tried to do is be reasonable and practical, and hope that the select board can take this and represent the people that do live here to DCAM tomorrow, and we'll be there in your support.
Thank you. So just one clarification, that the meeting tomorrow is a meeting of the working group, so it's not the full select board. I just want to make sure everybody understands. It's not a decision-making meeting. It's not a posted meeting of the select board. It's the working group where Ben and Finn had volunteered to be members of the working group with the residents. Okay, so it's a conversation with the state to move this forward.
I 100% get that,
Okay.
but
Just want to be
we're not
clear.
representing the town, right? You guys are.
Correct.
So when you're asking questions, we can be like, well, I think the town should ask the questions based on these recommendations, and we're there in support. But it's.
So I think part of the program for tonight, and then we're going to take a pause, I think, and have the water hearing. But once we come back to this, there'll be a discussion of the full select board to help inform Finn and me on what the select board sees as the priorities to put forward to DCAM tomorrow in the discussion. Again, not the decision-making meeting, but the feeling out of DCAM on its willingness to, as Steve was putting it, allow the kinds of restrictions that we'll talk about. And it's unlikely to be everything on this list, but it'll be some things on the list, presumably, and that's going to be part of the discussion, as I understand it, of the select board tonight, to talk through what the select board sees as the priorities, aided significantly by the process that you've all gone through, which we appreciate.
Okay, we're going to take a pause for a moment, and we'll have Ben's slides after we meet with the Water Commission. Ernest?
Thank you. Ernest Ashley, 9 Foster Street, and I am the chair of the Water Commission. And we are in joint session because we have myself and Commissioner Chuck Dam, and then Eric Mansfield as the superintendent in attendance. And thank you for the opportunity. We have been dealing with a requirement from EPA for a lower maximum contaminant level for per and polyfluorinated compound substances, or PFAS. And we do have some PFAS in our well supply. We are in compliance with the current level of 20 for the total of 6 compounds, but we anticipate by 2029 a requirement to go down to 4, and we are above that level. There may be some change in that date, but nonetheless, we have been in discussion on how to address the requirements for compliance with that lower concentration by 2029. And we have several options that we have looked at, and they have different costs associated with them. One would be for us to move forward with our own treatment system, which typically involves activated carbon to absorb the compounds that we are concerned with, plus some filtration for iron and manganese that we have naturally occurring in our water. And then the other option is to potentially combine with Hamilton, who has an existing treatment system that includes activated carbon, and therefore we would provide some water towards Hamilton's treatment system, and that combined system would be something that we would have as a more regionalized system. But as I say, we have looked at these options. There are some differences in cost, and Eric has more information. One of the benefits, Chuck, one of our commissioners, is also the DPW director for Manchester by the Sea. So they have both been participating in some of the regionalization conferences that Bruce Tarr has initiated. And so we would like to use this opportunity to bring the Select Board information about what options we have been looking at and start to get some discussion on what your thoughts are. Obviously, if we were to perform a design build, we could meet a 2029 deadline. If we were to engage in a regionalization where we would have to coordinate with Hamilton and be able to deal with that, that would be a more complicated project. And so we would have a concern about meeting a 2029 deadline. Now, as I mentioned as I start, there may be some grace on that 2029 to 2031. We've heard that, but we can't rely on it at this point. So I'd like Eric to provide the Select Board with some information on what options we've been looking at.
Thank you.
So back when we started testing for PFAS, we did find that we were below the state level. And I know back in '23, we provided some information to residents through mailings, and then also at 2024's town meeting, we had more information given out at the town meeting. We requested, we moved some money from our reserves in anticipation of design of a new treatment plant. We've also been working with Hamilton 3 years now on different grant options from the Ipswich River Basin Grant. First year in 2024, we received $232,000 from Mass DEP, and that was looking at a hydraulic model of Wenham's water system, permitting for a possible pump station to bring water in from Salem Beverly to Hamilton and Wenham, preliminary design of that pipeline, and analysis of a design of a PFAS removal plant for us. And then in 2025, we applied for the same grant, we were awarded $256,000, looking at a pilot study for our wells to see what kind of treatment we'd need to remove PFAS. Also looks at, Hamilton has a well on School Street in Hamilton that has a small amount of PFAS which needs to be removed. It's not in service anymore. And then modifications to our connections with Hamilton to be able to get water between the two towns. And then this year we just received on Friday information that we were awarded $447,000 out of $900,000 that was available to continue our work to look at a design of a raw water transmission line from our wells to Hamilton's treatment plant. Completing the pilot study, part 2 of the pilot study, to look at further treatment options. And then, that's about it then. So we were happy to be awarded that money. So I guess going forward, we've been in discussions with Hamilton as far as whether we could combine systems. And obviously, that's not just a decision that's made from the water department, because there's going to have to be municipal agreements in place. So I think we wanted the Select Board to start considering whether a regional system is something that we would all be on board with. That will give us a better direction on whether we continue looking at a raw water transmission line to Hamilton, or we do build our own treatment plant. So I think this is why we wanted to meet, and at this point, we'll have more information on after July, which is when this grant has to be completed by, whether we can actually do a transmission line to Hamilton's treatment plant.
Do you have a sense of the difference in cost between the two options?
Well,
At least
the
order
first,
of magnitude?
yeah, the first one, to build the treatment plant, originally 3 years ago, was around $12 million. And an estimate on maybe a transmission line at the time was around maybe $8 million. But once we have, after July, we should have a better idea of an exact cost of putting in this transmission line, so we could have a better idea of what we're looking at.
So you're not yet certain of the feasibility of the transmission line?
No, that's what this grant is paying for.
Because I'm just curious of the whys. Distance, how much has to be dug up? Like, what does the feasibility look at?
So our wells are on one side of Pleasant Pond, and Hamilton's wells are on the opposite side. So it's just a matter of getting a pipe from there, maybe down Pleasant Street, to the backside of their plant, or it may have to go up through either Main Street and back over to Lake Drive. So, and those are all the things we need to look at.
And where would we site a treatment plant, a hypothetical?
It would be at our well site right now.
At the well site?
Yeah.
So there is adequate space?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions? Finn?
One of the things that you mentioned when you were talking about grants had to do with sourcing water from Beverly, I think you said.
Mhm.
That is not relevant to this particular problem, right? That line is not going to be cleaning any water or filtering any water, so it's not a potential solution or even like a blow-off valve to kind of push this off.
It's a possible future solution to our area. We can't supply enough water during summer sometimes, so we would need to maybe take some water from Salem Beverly to supplement our water, just so we can meet peak demand.
So Eric, Wenham Lake is Beverly, Salem.
Yep.
So, I mean, we could just pull it from Wenham Lake, right?
No,
Sadly, no.
no.
Why not?
Well, we gave up those rights a long time ago.
Yeah.
Plus, that's a whole nother treatment process, and
Maybe I'm not being clear. You said one of the things you're looking at
Yeah.
is trying to get money from Beverly, Salem Waters.
no, we're not getting money from them.
Not money. I thought you said you were looking at if it would be possible to get water from.
Drawing excess
Yeah.
capacity.
So
Right.
in the charter for Salem Beverly Water Supply, they are allowed to give us water, us and Hamilton, as part of the original agreement, on an emergency basis.
On an emergency basis.
Yes.
And they basically said no otherwise.
Right.
And there is no connection right now.
We have a small connection.
Small
with Beverly,
connection,
yes.
okay. But the grants that you were talking about and the possibilities would like expand that connection, is that what it is?
It would put in a pump station to be able to add a metering station, so we know how much water is going.
Okay. I've heard, and this may be complete speculation, that, we basically have room for about something like 70 more units in the town when it comes to the amount of water that we can get out of the existing watershed. And so I'm not looking for it
Yeah.
to nail you down, but it's not a huge number of houses. And so this capacity increase that you're talking about bringing in possibly, would that materially increase this, or is that not a material increase in capacity?
Well, no.
And this might be a little off topic too, so I apologize if you want to return chairperson, but.
So if we combined with Hamilton,
Mhm.
we could ask Mass DEP to combine our withdrawals from the groundwater source, which would free up some capacity. And not, the water from Salem Beverly is only because during summertime peak demands, we just wouldn't be able to treat enough water at times when the water is being used the most. So it's, like I said, it's for emergency basis.
All right, so it's a different problem. Okay, thank you.
So we should really wait till July to make a final decision.
Yeah, but we wanted to get you thinking about it, about the possibility, and maybe talk to residents and see, you know, how people feel about maybe creating a regional water system with Hamilton. You know, in the future, there's probably going to be either MWRA or Salem Beverly Water Supply as a supplier for this region, because it's a service water supply.
So the horizon that you're thinking about as far as these two options is roughly, is there any way to project? It's
Well,
sort of like medium term, and the long term is hopefully the MWRA or at a reservoir addition. Like, what's the time horizon?
It's hard to
Roughly.
say, 15, 30 years
Okay.
before, unless MWRA was willing to put in some new connections, and and other cities and towns would have to actually allow that water to come through. So.
The funding methodology here, what would that be like? So right now, most of the water department kind of operates under its own budget, right? And can, you know, redeem, get to kind of a net zero by charging more for the water. But when you add $8 or $12 million of funding, is this something that's going to come up in like a next year's town meeting as either having to fund hundreds of thousands of dollars, kind of full study and analysis, and then, you know, based off of that, you know, another kind of decision on a major kind of debt for the water department?
So right now, last year we transferred 500,000 from our reserves specifically for PFAS design, treatment options, and we also received over $500,000 we were part of a class action suit against 3M and other companies. So basically, we have around $1 million right now to be able for design and those things. But yes, whatever the cost of the treatment plant or the connection will have to be bonded and paid for by the water users only.
Water users only, it's
Wouldn't be
not
on the
going to be
tax
something
rate.
that's going to be on a property tax or, okay.
And there's not grant funding available to offset that?
There are some. The state has offered 0% loans to the state revolving fund. But right now, there is a lot of funding is dried up. So we'll obviously look at any grants we could get or any types of funding that, you know, that we can get.
So the mechanism would be that the Water Commission would basically has the authorization right now to kind of commit to a $12 million loan, and then all the water users would see some sort of probably significant increase in their quarterly water charge to kind of cover the annual bill.
It would be a town meeting vote to
It would still be a
borrow
town
that
meeting.
money,
Okay.
yes.
And so you're coming to us saying, what do you, like, you're looking for guidance from us on trying to create a mechanism to get the temperature of the residents? We've in the past, you know, when it came to the school or 3A, we have created a working group that encourages participation of residents, participation of, like, say, the finance, the FinCom, right, and members of the board to kind of do an analysis. I mean, you've given us two options here, so
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are still in sort of the brainstorming stage, but those seem to be the only two that you've got, you know, to propose to us right now.
So if we do a treatment plant, it basically would be the Water Commission would take the information and go to town meeting and say, this is what we come up with, this is what we've designed, we need to borrow for it. If we look at an interconnection with Hamilton to bring our raw water to their treatment plant and then back to us, there's going to be agreements, intermunicipal agreements that are going to be done through the select board, not through the Water Commission. So we just want to make sure that you guys have it on your radar that that's something to think about, because if there's no appetite from the board to even consider that, I mean, we really just have to start looking right towards building our own treatment plant. So.
Thank you. So it sounds like the information in July, whether it's actually feasible to run the pipe from Hamilton to Wenham is critical information.
Yep.
And then we come back to this at that point, once that is known,
Yep.
and go from there, and potentially create a working group if that makes sense.
Yep.
Working towards next town meeting? Is that the time frame? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean,
Is that too soon?
Eric, what communication has happened with Hamilton at this time through Dewberry?
Through, well, just part of the grant and also through the North Shore Water Resiliency Task Force, we've been in discussion, part of that is looking at creating regional systems, and that is one thing that we've looked at there too, is if we could combine with Hamilton and basically start the regional process that's gonna happen anyways. So once, I don't know what the timeline would be to get to town meeting on it, but if they do give us till 2031, we're still 29 or 31, we still need to get the process rolling probably within the year, within the next year.
Okay, all right, that's helpful. All right, there is a question. Phil, I'm going to ask you to come to the microphone if you would.
I actually have two questions. One, do we know what the PFAS level in Wenham Lake is? So that's question one. And two, could you speak about the maintenance costs? Because once you use the activated carbon, you need to replace it, get rid of it. And could you talk about what those expenses are on an annual basis?
I don't have an answer on the cost of disposing of the carbon. We don't have any treatment right now, so I don't have that answer for you. I don't know what the PFAS level is in Wenham Lake that would be tested by Salem Beverly, so not something we test for.
Okay, but it may not be as simple as just taking water from Wenham Lake, and we have to treat that as well, potentially. It is treated now.
Yeah, we'd be getting, if we get water from Salem Beverly, it would be their treated water. It wouldn't be from the lake itself. So that's not an option for us.
I think it would be helpful, as a result of the work you're doing, you're saying, $12 million, and this is a few years old data for a plant, right? And to run the plant is not going to be free. So, it'll be important as part of the analysis to say, all right, and, once we have the plant, it's, likely to be X millions of dollars in, labor and, teams and repairs and removal of, contaminated, filtration, stuff. So
That'll be part of the design process. And also, when you're looking at, if we combine with Hamilton, there would be only one treatment plant to maintain instead of one in Hamilton, one in Wenham.
Right. So I can speak to this a little bit because this is similar to a project that we're doing in Manchester, to where we have same PFAS in our well. We have a similar, gallons per minute. We've done actually all the pilot testing that Eric was talking about, and we'll continue to do that. But so like round number, it all depends on how much PFAS you have, how much iron and manganese you have, which is all going to contribute to your operating costs. So we've looked at that. I would say we're, in the ballpark, around $50,000 a year additional operating. That probably doesn't include the energy. That's just the GAC and the green sand for the iron and manganese removal. So it's significant, if we go it alone and we do that. So splitting those operational costs, might not be a true 50-50, just because we do twice the water in Hamilton, there might be different amount that, it needs to be backwashed. We need to, get rid of spent media because we're combining the two. So that's part of this work that still needs to be done. But if we go alone, we've already kind of done that life cycle cost, and that is part of the study that we've done. And, speaking from experience in Manchester, it's significant. So I think that's kind of why this is important to discuss in terms of future planning for, combining the systems or, going it alone.
Okay, thank you. Ernest, did you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. I have one order of business. As the commission is in session, we need to approve the water ban as we have moved into a more significant drought. So that means no sprinklers during the day, but hand watering only from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. We have approval.
Aye.
Group, and so moved. And then I believe that concludes the business of the Water Commission today. We are adjourned.
Thank you very much for being here and for this update. It is a lot of food for thought. All right. So if we could we just, do you want to stick your head out and ask them to come back in the room? We will return to the discussion on 24 Cherry Street. And Ben, do you want to present next?
Sure. Thank you. So, Michelle, if you could pull up that PowerPoint. There we go. Great, and then just hit slideshow on the top there between animations and record. There we go, great. All right, so I put together a very rudimentary slide deck on PowerPoint, sort of vintage 2007, I would say. It's not very fancy. But I appreciate the information that the Hurleys in particular were able to gather for me on short notice. And I just wanted to present sort of the preliminary factual findings that our working group has come up with respect to this, I'll just call it a boundary discrepancy. And these are just really facts. Even though land use law is sort of my day job, I'm not providing any legal conclusions, advice to anybody. These are just the facts that I wanted people to be aware of and to be able to discuss. And the Hurleys can correct anything in here that's not quite right. But so starting with the ownership history of the subject property, the 24 Cherry Street property. So as others have said, it was constructed somewhere around 1850. It's eligible for inclusion in the National Register of Historic Places. Through 1989, so for about 140 years or so, it was owned privately. I took a look at some of the past deeds, and there are two families that seem to own it for significant stretches of time during that long period, the Eatons, the Linesses, but other people as well. And then in May 1989, it was sold by, I think maybe by developers. The last private owners were three distinct individuals who seemed to maybe buy it in order to develop it. I'm not exactly sure, but they sold it to the Commonwealth in 1989, and as we know, it was administered by the Department of Mental Health for most of that period, up until a few years ago when it was vacated. And now it's controlled by DCAM, as we know. Next slide. And then taking a look at the more recent ownership history of the Hurleys House 26, which is the directly abutting property to the west. This lists some of the families that live there, according to the Registry of Deeds. And as you can see, the Hurleys have owned the property for 23 years, roughly. And they're here this evening. Next slide, please. This is a picture that Mrs. Hurley provided to me that was taken at the time that they purchased the property in 2003. And this is the side yard, let's call it boundary discrepancy area that we're talking about. And the fence that is depicted there, to the best of our understanding, is in the same location as the current fence. And so as you can see, when the Hurleys purchased this property, they bought a property that, by all appearances and, by all sort of reasonable belief, included this piece of property to their side of the fence. Next slide. Was the fence there earlier than 2003? Probably, but I believe that the Hurleys and maybe others in the neighborhood are gathering additional information to try to date when a fence in that same location was first put there. So more evidence is needed in that regard, but it certainly seems like it was there well before 2003. Whether it was there before 1989 when the state bought it, I don't know. Maybe you guys do, but that's part of the information gathering process. And there's probably aerial records and various records, as well as people's recollection, including the gentleman who lives near you, who I think has lived there at least that far back, that might be informative in that regard. And then, according to the Hurleys, sometime, I think in the 2010s, I may have the decade off, but when your children were younger, as I understand it, the state put up a new fence, and they put it at the same location as what we're talking about. So there's some evidence the state regarded that as some kind of a boundary line. Next slide. So this is from 2005. This is another photograph that the Hurleys provided. This is just to show, you saw in the earlier photo where the driveway started, you saw that it curved to the right in that fashion. And so somewhere around 2005, the Hurleys paved the driveway, built the shed that still stands there today. The driveway is there. And again, this was all in what appears to me to be very reasonable reliance upon what the Hurleys and prior owners understood to be where their property was. Next. Thank you. So this is today. This is a picture of the side yard, that matches what we saw in the 2003 photo, but from the front, as you can see, there's a garden there. There's a discussion in what the abutters put together, what the neighbors put together, that amplifies some of this, describes the garden. But there's a garden there. The shed you saw before, it's sort of obstructed by the tree, but the shed is sort of directly, in a line behind the garden, and there's a patio there as well. And you see the fence, which is, we believe, in the same location as it's always been. Next. This is the same area, just a better shot of the shed and the patio. Next slide. All right, so one of the reasons why I think we, as a select board, would benefit from having a survey done and getting more information is that there's varying data that I've looked at as to exactly what the length of the 26 Cherry front boundary is, or its frontage. And this is obviously critically important to the issues we're talking about, how much of that front boundary actually belongs to 26. So I'll work going from the bottom up. So according to GIS, which is I think the aerial that was put on a prior slide and maybe is what the state is roughly operating under now, it says 67 feet. It actually, at first I thought it said 60 because it has 60, but then it has a 7-foot stretch next to it as well. So I believe that the GIS is representing 67 feet, although it may be that it's representing 60 feet. But that seems to be not the correct number, which is not too surprising because we don't take our official measurements off of GIS. They're not going to be precise every time. They take the best shot that they can. But according to the Hurley's deed, and every deed going back as far as the registry of deeds has it, the front boundary of this property is listed as 4 rods, 7 links, which is kind of an odd thing to see even in the 2003 deed that the Hurleys took, that it hadn't converted it into feet. It's still using the ancient surveying language. But at least according to a conversion table that I looked at, that's around 71 feet, which is obviously, wider than what GIS states. Now, interestingly, there are 2 plans that are in the town hall files, stamped engineering plans that were used to obtain a septic permit, I believe, in 2000, and a building permit for work that I don't believe was completed. If I'm mistaken about that, I think the plan talked about an in-law apartment, but in any event, a 2018 plan that was submitted. And these are both, again, stamped plans by engineers or architects. And those plans listed the frontage as 97.7 feet, which is clearly not correct, but again, it shows that there's some confusion over the actual dimensions. Yes?
Just to speak to the 2018, we did have a full renovation project done, all permits pulled.
Okay, so that was completed?
Completed.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it had actually been completed, but sort of.
And we used those plans, that's why they were done in 2018.
Great, thank you. I knew that the building permit was issued, I wasn't sure if everything was built. Okay, next slide. All right, so that arrow depicts very, very roughly, and again, this is underscores, I think, the importance of actually having a survey done of both properties to understand better what the boundary really is. But that arrow is set at roughly 71 feet based on a measurement that Mr. Hurley took yesterday. And so if 71 feet was enforced, and notwithstanding what David and others have said about the 15-foot setback and so on, which is a valid point, but if that were enforced as the property line, I think it would work a pretty dramatic reduction in the side yard of the Hurleys. Next slide. So this is the GIS, right? You can see where it says 60 and 7. So I'm interpreting that as both being frontage measurements, and so 67. So there's a question that I think we need to better understand as to where that eastern boundary, the 380 that's running vertically, where that actually is. It probably ought to be shifted to some degree east, just based on the actual survey. Why, again, is it accurate? We have the frontage discrepancy. We also have in one of the plans, the 2000 plan, it lists the lot as being 22,878 square feet, where that says 22,000. That discrepancy may align perhaps with the frontage discrepancy. It's hard to say. But my feeling is that it would be helpful to have surveys done so that we could really understand what is the difference between the official deeded boundary lines and what's on the ground, to try to really be able to pinpoint, let's call it the subject area or the disputed area, and what that would mean for the Hurleys if the actual and true boundary lines were enforced. The Hurleys certainly would have certain rights that they could look into in the area of adverse possession, even though it's not something that can really be directed to the state, but there's a lot of other things in the mix, and that would be up to them to, obtain legal advice as to what their rights might be. But my feeling, anyway, as one select board member, is that we should, before we move forward with something that we understand could have an outcome that seems unjust to me, that we should have surveys done so we can really fully understand the facts of the boundary issue. So that's what I wanted to present, and I guess if board members have questions, or if the Hurleys or any members of the public have comments or questions, that maybe could follow.
So, thank you for that awesome 1997 presentation. That was unbelievable. So we're basing this whole thing on a math equation, right? Ultimately, 4 units per acre minimum density. If that 34,500 drops to something else, we're talking about an entirely different project. Maybe we wait.
Well, I think that's why, in my view, that we want the facts, because it could be that we get facts that do drop that number below a certain threshold. That could cut in various directions, because this is all going to end up being probably some kind of a compromise with the state. The state's not just going to say, yeah, we'll give up as much square footage as you say we should. The state's probably going to say, we're not giving up more than what will lose us an affordable unit. They may take that position. I think we just want the information to know what we're dealing with. That's at least my feeling on that issue, on how, where the numbers would end up.
And what is the cost of a survey, roughly?
I think, in my experience, it's like $2,000 or less.
Okay.
Although if we're talking about two properties, so it's hard to say for sure. But
they're
thereabouts.
abut, so it's not going to be 2,000.
yeah, you use a lot of the same, monuments and so on. Yeah.
Well, we should definitely do it. Do the survey.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. Looks like that, Mr. Hurley maybe wants to.
Yeah, I don't disagree necessarily. I'm trying to process this. But I think it does cut both ways. I think that's the important thing.
It might be interesting to find out at the working group meeting tomorrow whether or not the state has already done a survey, which would obviously.
Steve learned today they haven't yet.
Okay.
They usually leave that to the
buyer.
the buyer. Yeah.
The buyer, so the RFP is going to go out there and say, good luck to the developer, and then they buy it, and then they discover
No, I mean,
what they
I
have.
think it's like any other parcel. You sell it, kind of buyer beware, do your due diligence before you buy it.
Interesting. Okay.
And to follow up on that, there's a sentiment here that, you know, and thank you, Ben, for doing all that. It looks like, I'm not a land use lawyer, we went potentially from 22,800 to 700 to 22,000 to less, possibly, correct? And I want the folks on the board to know that the state and these, it's like, I don't want to say it's esoteric, but it's this thing. But we are the people, and I want you to please know that we have lived here for a very long time and raised our kids, and if you have the ability or power to be our voice to the state to protect the people who have been paying the taxes and raising their kids, which is really, like, let's look at the people who are currently here and not for the potential people who might sort of come here. So please protect the here and now before we do whatever happens here. And I'd like you to not worry about the cost of but the people and my children, and my mother lives with me in an in-law apartment, which is one of the reasons all of us have aging parents who are looking to downsize and go into a smaller place. So I know the Healy administration is pushing housing, and it seems to be affordable, but we also could be creative and smart and get ahead of the curve and say, mixed use, keep the line where it is, and it's a win-win-win, and keep it as simple as possible. So please think about where we've been and how much dramatic impact you'll have to us, that if I lose my driveway, my shed, and my patio that we have thought has been ours for 25 years, it has an impact. So Ben, thank you, and Finn for coming out and doing this, and I'm not sure what happens now, but thank you.
Scott, 25 Line. I have a question. Is this a standalone project for the state, or is it being combined with something else? How's it being subsidized so it can be affordable housing?
The town would be subsidizing it, and through the Affordable Housing Trust, and the state has said that they would be willing to sell the property for $1.
I know that. I'm aware of that. So
Okay.
they're willing to give away the property, and the town is willing to put in $300,000. That is not going to be enough subsidy to build. We don't know what they're going to build for affordable housing, where when you look at the percentages for medium income, and only 30% of that can go to rent plus utilities, the math doesn't add up.
Well, and that's the importance of the grid that we're trying to get at, right? So that's why we're going to meet with them tomorrow. I don't think it should be a negotiation. This is not a senior member there. He has people to report with. This is an informational gathering session, right, that was offered and discussed at the prior meeting, that we would invite a DCAM representative to our initial meeting to help the residents who had a number of questions that wanted to speak to a representative of the state. So we invited him to be there, and he will be there to address us and get us, help educate us as to the state's perspective and the types of things we can work to integrate into this RFP. And then the working group will continue its work with the residents and Ben and Finn, and we will come together and be able to bring back to the select board a package that, is, I'm guessing, a recommendation through the working group, if we can come to that, for the select board to look at and adopt or not. And ultimately, they will be the ones that are the ones to communicate with DCAM, the preferred project. Not the residents, not the working group, but the select board
understand.
themselves.
Can you convey to them, I know we're going back to the investment that we made into that neighborhood, which looks spectacular, in 20 years that's changed. If you could change the time and this project went in there, how do you think those two streets would look today? You think I would have made that investment with all my neighbors? It would be a different community. I think that needs to be conveyed to DCAM. This is really upending the town, and it's in the heart of the community.
I think you're drastically overstating.
I don't think I am.
Well,
You know something?
You're making statements about what you believe the market will and won't support.
I think
that's the RFP process, as you well understand.
Right.
Is a market-based process, and so if there are developers who think that they can make a profit under the conditions of the RFP, then they'll put in a bid.
Then why is it
if there isn't, then they'll change the conditions so that they can get.
Why is the town putting in $300,000 to help them? I'm confused by that.
Because it is part of the goals of the town, as stated in our master plan, to try to create affordable housing. That is the reason for the $300,000
I just want to
investment.
go on record. You think that's best for the community over there?
That is what we voted for, to endorse trying to create affordable housing. I do believe that is an important goal, yes. I do believe, however, that we are taking into account the concerns of the neighbors. That's why we are engaged in this entire conversation and have created this working group and are engaged in this process, right? We're trying to get to an endpoint that everyone can have at least some satisfaction with, okay? So I think we are trying to move forward in good faith with all of you to do the best we can to try to arrive at the best endpoint possible. Okay, but I am going to ask that we move the discussion along. I think that this has been very helpful, although I don't fully grasp all of this. Joe, did you?
Sorry, Madam Chair, there is a Zoom hand raised. I just want to point that
okay.
out. Yep.
I just want to finish the thought because I'm having a hard enough time formulating it. I am not a land use lawyer either. And it is our responsibility, Mr. Hurley, I just want to clarify, we do have to take into account costs to the town. That is part of our responsibility of being on the select board, just to clarify that. Not at the expense of people, but we have to answer for what we spend, okay? My comment about this could cut both ways, because it seems to me if the survey is done and it is, the boundary is found to be, how do I say it? Not where you think it is, right? You've been operating as if that is your property. So if it does not turn out that way, that seems disadvantageous for you. So I guess that's what I'm trying to sort of process in my head.
Think about it, in 2018, we did pay to have it done, and that's where the 97.
That's where they,
Yeah,
okay.
correct. And Michelle Hurley, 26 Cherry Street, up until
Thank you.
9 days ago, my understanding was the fence was the property line.
Okay.
And why wouldn't I not think it wouldn't be?
It appears logical from the pictures we just saw. I don't disagree. Just trying to understand all of this.
So I think a likely outcome of a survey is that it's going to show that the fence is not the property line. I think that's probably what it will show. But it'll help us understand that the difference between where the actual property line is and where the things on the ground, like the garden, the shed, and the patio are, that creates kind of the zone of conflict, the zone of dispute that we could then say, okay, that's a pretty big swath of land that if we were to not say anything to the state about wanting to deal with it, would be lost. So to me, it just sort of, it helps identify the scope of the problem. If it's a tiny sliver, then it's less of a problem. But I don't think it's going to be, I think a survey will show that the fence is technically on the land of 24. Though, again, if these were private parties, the Hurleys could probably go in front of a judge and have a judge say, oh, you have more than 20 years of this fence being here, the other adverse possession criteria met, it's actually your land, Hurleys. A judge might say that if it were private parties involved, and the state's involved, it's different. But I think, in my mind, it's just to try to identify the scope of the harm that could befall the Hurleys if it were to go forward with no restrictions on this issue, so that we can then understand it, decide how to prioritize it figure out with the state solutions for it. Maybe it's as simple a solution as what has been conveyed about, okay, it's essentially a no-build zone, so, you know, that's all it needs to be worried about, or some commitment that just the fence be allowed to stay. There's different ways to tackle it, but I think the survey would just help us understand, like, where, you know, where are the actual boundaries.
Okay, thank you. Let's take the comment on Zoom.
Lisa, go ahead.
Yes, Lisa Bile, 25 Monument Street. It's actually a twofold question. If the Commonwealth decides that it cannot dispose of this parcel for the purpose for which it thinks it can, what would be the next step? That's question one. Question two, is it too late for the town to petition the Commonwealth to have that parcel purchased by the town and sold as private property? And I'd like to understand, if that would not work, why?
The first question is, I mean, I'm not sure what would happen if there's no proposal that comes in, but this state, you know, understands the market and surpluses property quite frequently. So the RFP will have, you know, and that's why I stress the importance of having this grid of, you know, even the least favorable, you know, project needs to be marketably, you know, marketable in the marketplace. So that meaning that, you know, if the property was to say you can put 3 units, a density of 3 units on that 35,000 square feet, full market rate housing, you know, the state would have no problem selling it at that. The reason why the community, you know, kind of moved away from trying to acquire it themselves was, one, you had to petition the legislature for special legislation to allow the state to dispose it directly to the town. Additionally, the state would require the town to pay fair market value for the property. The select board weighted, as they've discussed earlier, the importance of affordable housing in the community. So in order for that to be economically feasible, the property, you know, we could not pay fair market value for the property because that would force it to be a single family marketable home. So you know, they took the path of allowing the state to dispose of it through reduction in the land value and also the Affordable Housing Trust to partner and make affordability component worth it, whether $300,000 in the land going for nothing is going to allow 3 affordable housing units there, you know, remains to be seen. Maybe not. So then, you know, the grid has to outline, is it, you know, I'm just speculating, but is it most important 3 affordable units, you know, and then in Tamir is 2 affordable units, 1 market, and then, you know, 2 market, 1 affordable, and then ultimately 3 market homes. So, you know, I don't think you have to worry about it not being sold. It's just, you know, we want to be able to define what goes there in a sense, and something that works for both the town schools and the abutters schools.
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry, it might have been lost somewhere there. Was there ever a price quoted for the state to sell that parcel to the town?
We have to get an appraisal done and pay full fair market value.
What was the cost?
We never had the appraisal done.
You never had it done. Okay, so it could have been under 300,000.
I have no
Which
idea.
the town was willing to pay for that, to give away.
Not sure.
We don't know. We don't know. So that's something we haven't done. So that's another piece of due diligence that has not been done.
Well,
correct?
Go ahead.
300.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be.
Different sources.
Yeah, I don't think it would be anywhere close to 300,000. But no, we had a pretty comprehensive discussion about this. I don't recall when it was. On a, you know, I will just add a publicly posted meeting with an agenda that lists the things we talk about. And as Steve accurately just recapped all the, the various equities that we discussed as to why we didn't feel on balance it was prudent to get the town in the development business. We don't have the expertise for it. We don't have the staff bandwidth for it. It's doubtful that the taxpayers of the town writ large would be so enthused about funding a purchase in a particular neighborhood, just like there may be people in this neighborhood who wouldn't be so enthused about that across town. So there were a number of things we talked about, and I feel like we're in a place now where we are able to balance all these things, work with the state, raise the issues that we've raised already, raise maybe a couple of other issues, and try to come up with as much of a win-win as possible.
Thank you. All right, I want to try to move us forward because we do have other things on the agenda that we need to get to. So would you like to make a motion about a survey?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we designate the town administrator to obtain a survey of the 24 and 26 Cherry Street property lines.
Not to exceed that you'd be...
We could do that.
Just do like $5,000 because
5,000?
yeah, I want to make sure we can get it done.
Not to exceed
Not to come back.
$5,000.
Second.
Any comments before we vote? You good? Peter? All right, we'll do individual votes. Finn?
Vote aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Peter?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes. Okay, we'll proceed with the survey. Thank you, Steve. And now if we just circle back as the last thing to the memo that was submitted from the abutters, from the community. So, which is where we started the discussion this evening. Are there any comments from the board on that that would help you for the meeting tomorrow, I think is where I'm going.
I would appreciate any kind of questions or comments you have, since we're going to be participating in the discussion. It's definitely informational gathering. We're looking for insights from the people that are attending there, especially the folks from the state, to kind of understand their process and avoid any sort of surprises on our end. But I'm looking for any kind of questions you guys have that you want to see going next. Otherwise, we're going to be there, so we're going to ask these questions.
Right, yes. Are you able to put it back up quickly, Michelle?
From the residents?
Yes.
This is the memo. That we wanted?
No,
You can't see it.
Ben's part.
Could I just say something that I think might expedite some of the issues there? So, as we all know, we have site plan review in the town. I was just looking at the site plan review portion of our zoning bylaws, and it covers 8 different considerations, including minimized volume of cut and fill, number of removed trees. It talks about scenic views. It talks about building placement. It talks about minimizing glare. I think that the helpful memo that the neighborhood put together, it lists 2 things that I think kind of go together, which is building placement and vegetative buffering. And to me, if we were to say to the state, this needs to go through site plan review, which I think is very doable, and Margaret can correct me, but I think that it's site plan review, as we know, is a by right process, so it's not a discretionary thing, but it allows the planning board to impose some of these things that we're talking about. I think that's how the buffering and placement of buildings should be handled, would be through site plan review. So anyway, I think that site plan review may take care of a couple of those things.
Peter, any comments? Okay, could you scroll down just a little? I mean, I don't have any issues with the vast majority of these suggestions. I think that it's reasonable. I appreciate the thinking behind it. The only place where I disagree is adding the age restriction, because I do believe we have a lot of age-restricted housing in the town already. There is very little affordable housing available for families, and I think we have agreed that none of us want this to be 5 units, but that's the only piece that I, as one select board member, would disagree with, is adding another restriction that is age restriction. Okay.
I would agree with that. I missed that.
Appreciate your feedback. We'll make sure to bring it all up as we go through all these documents in our next meeting as a working group.
Thank you for participating.
Could I attempt to sort of recap where I think we are, just so
Sure.
that it's clear to the neighbor? So I think what we have a consensus on is 3 units. Part of this is sort of where we were before. 3 units. Historic preservation to the extent feasible, which may end up being the facade, so that would be a value that we've already conveyed and would continue to convey. Site plan review, which I believe is the appropriate way to capture some of the buffering and building placement issues that have been raised. I don't think that we should, or that the state would ever accept kind of a no-build zone in the back half of the property. I think that's a non-starter with the state, but site plan review, again, is a way to balance issues of buffering and issues of building placement. And then it sounds like there's a consensus that that the board would like to see 3 affordable units. It may be that the state in the RFP process realizes that that isn't economically feasible, and that there has to be a market rate unit to subsidize the costs of the affordable units, but that would be something that the state would have expertise on. Are there any other things on the list that we haven't dealt with?
I've heard from the AHT that they've had, when you put in affordable houses, one of the kind of long-term concerns is maintenance of those houses. That folks that might be eligible for affordable housing might have less resources to maintain the property afterwards. And so I've heard from members on the AHT that rental is a way of controlling that, right? It's still owned by a relatively affluent developer or entity that can maintain the property to the levels that we might hope or expect in the neighborhood. And that's one of the reasons that the AHT has said that a rental option or preference is actually better for maintaining the character in the neighborhood. So I'm interested in kind of hearing from DCAM about rental and whether or not that's something that they typically put in or can't put in or won't put in at the working group.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, then the other issue is the boundary issue. So
Yes.
that's something that I think we can report to DCAM, that we're going to have a survey done, that it's a concern that we think might need to be resolved, but we're gathering more information about the boundary issue.
Okay, with that, okay, come where we can hear you.
Lauren Consolazio, 22R Cherry. I guess I want to first say that I'm sorry if we come across as adversarial. That's not our intention. It's a very emotional thing for all of us. I know that Mr. Biles spoken about our financial investment, but it's clearly more than that. Sorry, I didn't expect to get like this. But I would like to ask that whoever is speaking with the GCAM tomorrow, ask them about the timeline, because we have to make real decisions about where we're going to live. Okay? And I'm not trying to be dramatic. What I'm saying is that I chose to live there, as Dave so nicely said. I chose to live in that home for a reason. If I wanted to live in a home with rentals, which makes me want to spit daggers, and
several homes and driveways and not a tree in sight, I would not be paying the highest tax rate in the state, and I would be living in another area. And to stand here and feel like you're just deciding by a bunch of numbers, though, Ben, I truly appreciate the effort that you've put in. That's like the sliver of hope that feels like someone's hearing us, okay? And I know it's not your backyard, but it's truly our backyard. We raise our children there, and my husband is home right now searching for homes to live in. I'm a realtor, and I'm going to spend my time looking for a new house, okay? For real, because it's not going to be the same place anymore. And it's not about affordable housing. It's about they're just a wipeout of the place that we've called home for a really long time. So I'd like to ask if we can find out what the timeline is to know when they're going to agree or disagree to these things, because I need to know whether I'm selling my house in a week or I'm selling my house in 3 months, or if I'm going to try to stick it out and live through this misery that we've been dealing with for the last 10 days. Okay, so if somebody with more say than just me, because I'm going to be driving during this meeting tomorrow, could ask that question, I would truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, we will certainly ask that question. And I appreciate the emotion. I understand it. I am also attached to my house. Okay, so I'm here in good faith trying to work with you. We do have responsibilities as select board members, but we are trying to be sensitive to the neighborhood. We are trying to hear and work with everything that you're asking for, okay? I'm going to ask you to try to have faith that we are hearing you and that we are trying to do the best for all involved. I said this before at the last meeting. I'm going to say it again. I hope that we can get to an end point that none of you feel that you have to sell your houses to get away from. I think Finn is raising the idea of rental. That's not a decision. That's just a comment at this point.
If someone was listening, they wouldn't raise that. It wouldn't be raised.
I think, so the discussion needs to be robust, and everyone has a right to raise what they want to say, okay? But that's not a decision at this point. We don't know, all right? But it's within his rights to raise that as a question. We are trying to be considerate. We are trying to hear you. We also do need to get to a conclusion, okay? I appreciate all of you coming tonight. We appreciate the work that you have put in, and we appreciate those of you who are coming tomorrow to the meeting. This is to be continued. All right, with that, we're going to move on because we do have other agenda items and we have other people waiting, okay? Thank you. All right, so next is Martha, by any chance, in the Zoom?
Yes. In order right now.
I'm Martha Brennan on the Wenham Committee, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to join tonight to do our annual request for money to support our Juneteenth celebration. As in past years, we partner with the North Shore Juneteenth Association to put on a really dynamic and presentation that goes into the history and other elements of the Juneteenth celebration. And if you've attended it, you know it's really great. And the cost is $450. It's the only money that we ask for during the year. So happy to answer any questions about it. Hoping to get the support of the board.
Thank you, Martha. I think this is one we can move expeditiously.
Yeah, we're totally supportive, so
Go ahead.
I move to approve $450 for the funding of the North Shore Juneteenth celebration.
I'll second.
All right, we'll do voice vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Martha, thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. Apologize for the wait, and thank you for the great work.
No worries. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can see. All right, what's that?
Can we take the conservation?
Conservation, so Kate and, sorry, my apologies, I was going in order. Okay, so we're going to move to item J, which is discussion and potential vote to approve the conservation restrictions and purchase and sale agreement for 9 and 51 Maple Street. And I'm going to turn it over to Kate
All
to
right.
explain it to us.
All right, so today I'm going to ask you guys to please sign the conservation restrictions for 9 and 51 Maple Street and the purchase and sale agreement for the purchase of the conservation restrictions. So as you may recall, this project has been going on, I think we started conceiving this during the first open space plan in 2019, so Margaret was part of that. This parcel was picked as one of the most important parcels in town to preserve. And so the last 3 or 4 years, we really started to think about funding for it. And then finally, in 2024, the Conservation Commission had a brilliant idea to go to the CPC and ask for funds to transfer over from the CPC to the Conservation Fund. And that was overwhelmingly voted for at town meeting. Actually, the first year, the Conservation Commission received $1.7 million over the asking amount for the purchase of this conservation restriction for this property and for 212 Topsfield Road. So there were 2 of them. So today, how did we get this purchase price, this $2.425 million? The appraisal of this property, this conservation restriction, is actually over the $2.425 million. We negotiated with Greenbelt to get it to the $2.425 million. So $2 million will be taken from the Conservation Fund. And then the $425,000 was a grant we received from the state, the land grant. So the reason why there are 2 conservation restrictions is what they're doing on the property is the part that's in green is going to be owned by Greenbelt. The part that's at the top that's kind of in that pinky orange color and the white underneath it will be owned by their LLC. The reason why they do that is they keep their the land that they use for their recreational purposes under Greenbelt, and any sort of purchase that they are going to do where they're then going to sell that property, they put under their LLC. And so eventually, this property that's in the white and the little the pinky area will be sold off. So the main home was already contingent. There's already a buyer for that main home and that property. That will be about 15 acres, and that will be under a historical preservation, which means that it's just as good as a conservation preservation, where they are not going to be able to change the house, but also the character of the lands around there. And then the other top corner where that conservation restriction is, and 3 acres around there, will hopefully, we're hoping, go to Habitat for Humanity to make the current carriage house there. They'll renovate that, and we've done perk testing where they believe that 2 more houses could be built over there. So that's the goal. So tonight, what we need is, last night, we had a meeting, and the Conservation Commission overwhelmingly said yes to this, and they have all signed the conservation restrictions, and we're hoping tonight that you guys will motion to do the same. And then also you have an extra piece where you will be hopefully motioning to approve the purchase and sale agreement. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
It is really great.
Well, I actually, Chris LaPointe and I have talked about this because this has been a labor of love, and he said that we're going to be doing talks about this because it has got everything in it. It's got the historical, it's got the affordable housing, and it's got the conservation. So it's really a landmark project for Wenham. It's wonderful.
It is, absolutely.
And is it right that 9 Maple has a buyer? I saw that it went on the market and then
Yep.
it went off the market.
Yep, it's already contingent.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did they put it on for?
1.6.
Yeah, what a beautiful house and
It's-
property that looked to be from the listing anyway.
It's absolutely stunning.
That's just like a private party somewhere
Yes.
buying it, yeah.
Yep.
Kate, the carriage house, that's the White House
Yes.
near the corner, right?
Yes.
So they project they can put 3 units, 3 houses of that size?
So it would be the carriage house and then 2 additional homes that they think that.
Like
And you're going down
behind?
Topsfield Road?
Yes, if you're at the corner of Maple and Topsfield, if you go
Going this way.
behind, yep, and you go behind the White House,
Yep.
it would be, there is like a hill, and it goes
Yes.
kind of down like that, and it would be kind of halfway to the bottom of the hill. And then next to there are some
Okay.
isolated wetlands, and that's where that conservation restriction is. So
Okay.
we're protecting all those isolated wetlands, although in Wenham, they're already protected under our regulations.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Really cool.
Anything, Finn?
No, looks great. I'm really excited to see it happen.
Yeah.
You ready for a motion?
Likewise, I am.
I move to accept the conservation restriction for the 1.4 acre lot at 9 Maple Street as written.
Second.
All right, this is important. We'll do an individual vote. Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Ben?
Ben, aye.
Peter?
Yes.
And Deirdre is yes. And Kate, I want to say thank you. You've done tremendous work on this.
Thank you.
This is really an amazing thing for the town of Wenham. Yes.
And thank you to Phil Colarusso, because without him at town meeting, I don't know if this could have happened. We
Always.
got a lot of gray hairs at that first town meeting.
Always thank you to Phil Colarusso for
absolutely.
chairing our Conservation Commission as well and all the work.
Good stuff. All right, you ready? I move to accept the conservation restriction for the 115.5 acre lot at 9 and 51 Maple Street as written.
Second.
Okay, I think now we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. One more.
Move to accept the purchase and sale agreement for the purchase of the conservation restriction for the 2 parcels of land containing approximately 115.5 acre lot and a 1.4 acre lot at 9 and 51 Maple Street as written.
Second.
All right, one more time. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
And we do need wet signatures, so if you could sign this right now.
I think I need to sign the thing.
Let's go.
Is this what needs to be notarized?
Yeah, so Diane said that she can notarize by the
Watching.
vote and watching. So
Oh, excellent.
Do you want to do that as well?
Also, Margaret's a notary, and she's here as well.
Oh,
So we're covered.
wonderful. Figure out where we are while you do that.
This one too?
Here we go.
Okay, thanks.
Why don't we get up to,
Sheesh.
do you want to do F?
Yes, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so while the signatures are happening, we will move on to F, discussion and potential vote to amend or withdraw on Route 97 specifically, the speed reduction to 25 miles per hour, the application that was submitted to Department of Transportation.
All right.
Do you want?
I appreciate just a little bit of background.
Yes.
About why we applied and then
Why we're reconsidering. So it was at some point last year that we decided to, thank you, lower the speed limit across town-wide to 25 miles per hour. The state roads, we do not have the authority to lower the speed limit, so the decision was made to request it of the state for Route 97 to lower the speed limit. In the time since it's been implemented, I think some of us have heard mixed reactions from the public on the opinions about the 25 miles per hour, which has given me pause. And I also drive Route 97 on almost a daily basis, and have thought a lot about what it would mean to reduce the speed there, which is most of the stretch of road is 40 miles per hour. As you come up to the intersection with the set of lights, it reduces to 30. But to have 25 miles per hour on the entirety of Route 97 in Wenham, I think, could potentially be a dangerous situation, trying to slow the traffic to that extent, which is why I wanted to put it back on the agenda for us to rethink it a bit.
I did communicate with the police chief, and he believes that 25 miles an hour on 97 specifically is too low, and he believes that the current posted speed limit is suitable and appropriate for that road.
I just have a question. Are 1A and 22 all set, or did we ask the state to revisit
So
those speed limits?
22, the only reason why we can do it on 97, 22 and 1A are out completely.
Okay.
97, it's, I'm not sure, I don't know the entire history, but the state like quasi disposed of the land or the right of way to the town, and that we have to maintain it. But they still have control over like the flow of traffic, so they still set the speed limit.
Okay.
But because we maintain it, I guess there's an application process we can go through, and that's the process we're in now.
So 97 was the only one where we made that
Can
request.
I say something? That Deirdre was being kind when she moving to 25 miles per hour. I got it. Is very unpopular. I get chewed out by my wife. My wife says that, well, I should not say this.
Remember, we are in a public meeting.
We are in public.
I'm on Grapevine Road, and people making very unkind gestures at me. So, and I think Deirdre said to me earlier that we said we'd check this out for a year. Do we know when we did it?
No, we gotta look up the date, but I'll look. Yeah.
So at the time that we decided to reduce the speed limit townwide, we did agree that we would basically revisit it, see how it's working roughly a year from the point at which it was implemented. So we need to refresh our memories as to when that was. And of course, the police chief will be collecting data and assessing how this goes. There are, I think, mixed opinions in town, so we will definitely be considering the larger townwide speed limit again at some point in time, or at least looking at how it's working at a minimum. But the discussion tonight is specific to the request to DOT regarding lowering the speed limit on Route 97. But I will say that I have been informed by some of the concerns that people have raised about aggressive driving with the lowered speed limit and what that would look like on Route 97, which is a small highway, but a highway nevertheless, and where that could create more danger than the current speed actually does.
And
Well, just so you guys know.
Well, let him.
Okay. I was just going to say, this is at our prerogative to make this request and withdraw the request, and if we decided to put it back in, in a reasonably short period of time, there's no restriction on that. So this is just, we're not closing the door on making a request for 10 years or something like that with this. So this seems like fairly easy and low impact to delay or to pull back.
Go ahead.
Just so you guys know the history on that light on Topsfield Road in Maple. That was erected because prior to that there was no light there, and somebody got killed in a car accident there, and that's why they put the light there. And as crazy as it sounds, there were a lot of people who were like, we don't have any lights in the town of Wenham. Why, I don't care if somebody died there in an accident. We just shouldn't have lights. So it was actually very contentious at town meeting.
Gosh.
So anyway.
It's hard to imagine that intersection without lights. It'd be chaos. I'd be afraid to drive through it, which I do repeatedly all day. Okay.
Ready for a motion?
Sure.
So I'll move that the town of Wenham withdraw any request made to the state to change the current speed limits on Route 97 Topsfield Road in Wenham.
Second.
Okay, I think we can do a voice vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay, Steve, you'll relay that
Yeah, we'll do that.
to the chief and take the applicable action. Okay, item G, discussion and potential vote to amend the Pleasant Pond policy. I believe we're just amending the rules that we came up with last time.
Yes,
that correct?
right, so we didn't bring up the whole policy, but basically just to add to the list of rules the select board adopted last time, to add the additional rule of using the grounds, water, or woods as bathroom facilities is strictly prohibited.
Which was at my request, because we have had reports from residents that before when porta potties are not available at the site, at least, possibly when they are, but in any case, that the woods have been used as bathroom facilities, and we want to do anything we can. That is a watershed. There are all kinds of health issues with that occurring at that site, and we want to do whatever we can to prevent that. So at a minimum, we can at least put it on the sign and publish it so that it has been said. Things that you don't think need to be said, but nevertheless,
You want a motion?
yes.
I move to amend Pleasant Pond policy to add using the grounds, water, or woods as bathroom facilities is strictly prohibited.
Do we have a second?
A second?
Okay, all in favor, voice vote? Aye?
Yes.
Okay, all set. Okay, Steve, the next one I believe is yours.
Yeah.
Item H, discussion on,
Right?
Yeah, quick update, the auction never happened, I
Let
didn't
me
get it. So sorry.
for the public's benefit, this is the update on parcel 17-38A, 18 Longfellow Road, auction of the property. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this all took place last week outside of a select board meeting, so I just wanted to update the select board, although I have through email, but just do it again in a public meeting. The Longfellow Road, 18 Longfellow Road parcel was scheduled to be auctioned off last Thursday. On Monday or Tuesday, I was made aware of some easement rights that went with this parcel that allowed for the owner of this parcel to pass either by foot or motor vehicle across a number of parcels up on the Longfellow area, which included one parcel that, was vacant, I believe, probably at the time when the easement was granted, but now has a house there. And knowing that the intent of cleaning up the parcels up there was to eliminate the already existing easements up there that cause, some abutter conflict and concerns and encroachments. So we tried to work a way to work it in that the easement could be dissolved by the new owner. However, given advertising requirements, we could not change the terms of the sale. So I made the call to cancel, at advice of tax-taking counsel, the auction on Thursday, and it will be reposted in approximately 3 weeks. Unfortunately, council has not been able to get us the additional wording that we're going to use at this time, so the select board will have to vote on that at their next meeting. That's all.
Okay, so no action at this point.
No action.
All right, thank you for that update. And then I think that brings us perhaps to the last item. Discussion and potential vote to sign the sustainable purchasing policy in partnership with Recycle Smart.
Yep. So this Recycle Smart is with DEP as well, right? Yeah, so Mass DEP, and it's their program, Recycle Smart. There's a grant program that we participate in. We get awarded about $6,000 every year, and we use that money to purchase the recycling, like the green recycling plastic bins that everybody has, and also the compost, they call them wheeling carts, but the things that you can put your food scraps in. So we buy those and maintain an inventory of them, so when they break or wear out, we can replace them. With that $6,000, the requirement by the state to be able to receive that grant is that prior to this, the select board's office, and this has been going on for probably 10 plus years, I send, really Michelle, sends a letter to all boards and departments that says that we encourage through our purchasing that we seek out and buy where appropriate and available materials that utilize recycled materials to manufacture them. This policy, if you can pull it up on this policy, they changed their policy, I guess, this year by a little bit, and they sent out, this is basically this is just, take their draft, insert Town of Wenham. They want all executive bodies to adopt this policy, which is, again, it's echoing the recyclability component in our procurement, but also looking to eliminate waste and minimize environmental pollution impacts. So looking at, things like when we're buying like hazardous materials, if there's an alternative, at least having the discussion of, buying trash bags, carry in, carry out in your parks, like things like that. So you're not buying, single-use trash bags, single-use doggy waste bags, like different ways of trying to eliminate that type of waste in our, this is a policy that we'll look into it, but also our purchasing habits when we're looking to purchase. So by adopting this, it allows the town to continue to participate in that grant program. Our expectation is we would continue to receive that $6,000.
Very good.
All right, seems pretty straightforward. Any comments?
I think the language I'm reading here is laudable, and it kind of gives us a goal and something to attempt to, but it doesn't seem to be locking us into absolute behavior. So I think it's a good signaling device, and, signaling, where we stand, and to the rest of the town's organization to be doing its best to achieve these, but it's not doesn't appear to be locking us into behavior that would, or, things that would cost us a significant amount of money.
Finn, that's kind of an interesting question. It's like, how many people in town actually recycle? Do we know?
Meaning, if you, every Monday, I can see on my street that they have both the trash and the recycling bins out, but I have no concept about.
I live on Arbor too, I've noticed that.
Comments on the policy?
No.
Ben?
No.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve and sign the Wenham Sustainable Purchasing Policy.
Second.
All right, voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Okay, I believe that concludes our business for this evening. Our next meeting is 2 weeks.
Yeah,
26?
26, yep.
Not good with dates. May 26th, thank you. All right, with
So-
that,
So I move that we adjourn the select board May 12th meeting 2026 at 8:32 PM.
I'll second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Yep.
evening.